So that was a quick and easy way to make a chart. Let's take a look at another data set and another chart type, and some of the different ways to make charts. So here we have the data for the GDP per capita, the annual per capita GDP of various countries over the years 1950 to 1983. So it would be nice to chart a bar graph won't work in this case. We'd want something to show a trend. That would be an effective way to visualize. We want something like a line graph, which you can see here. So let's put on the simplest type line chart. And you can see it didn't quite work. What it did is the following. It has all these things here, but what's this over here? See, if you look here, it's the year column that is also plotted in the chart, which we didn't want. We would rather have the years be at the bottom along the x-axis. So let's try that one more time. So let's delete it, and maybe this time let's not select the years, only select the countries and their respective GDPs. So if we do that and we go to insert a line graph, this is what we get. This is much better, right? Because now you can see the trend of the different countries and their GDPs change over time. But we see the numbers here. We don't know which years these things correspond to. So we want to add the years at the bottom. But if you quickly see, if you hover over this, it'll tell you this is Greece, which has done quite well over that period in time. Not so well right now, but. And the European countries did well. I mean, this is US and Canada down here. Yeah, they're there. So anyway, let's try to add the years. So the way to do that is just by this button called Select Data. So now you see the legend entries are given here. And for each legend entry, we have the associated data. What you want is the horizontal axis labels. So we can, and they're given here as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, and which we can see down here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we want to do now is to use the years as the different as the horizontal axis. So we select this bit and hit OK. So now the axes I've shown here and also down here, you can see that it's changed from the 1, 2, 3 numbers to the actual years corresponding to the different GDP. So this is pretty handy. So that is a good thing. But there are a few more things we can do. One cool thing about these types of charts is you can add a trend line. A trend line is a line that just shows the trend of the data, not considering the noise and things like that. In order to do that, let's select only one country. So again, we go to Select Data, and we can start deleting these different things from here, all but one. So we remove and only leave the USA behind, say. So now here we have the GDP per capita of USA annually, and down here we have the years. Again, you can format all the chart titles and axis titles and the axis labels, just like we did with the bar graph. So now over here, you can add a trend line, which can be done by going into the Layout tab in the ribbon. If you go up here, you can see there's a trend line box. Now you can add different types of trend lines, but let's start with the linear trend line and see how well it fits the data. So it kind of tells you the trend straight on. It matches the data fairly accurately, but maybe an exponential trend might work out better. Well, let's actually get rid of the trend, the linear trend, so we can see the exponential better. Oh, it's not getting rid of them. So let's actually remove the trend lines to do that and add in an exponential trend line. And you can see there's a slight curvature to this line as opposed to the linear line, which was absolutely straight. Let's try a linear forecast trend line. All this does is it tells you, it goes a bit further in the future and gives you a forecast of what you could expect to see given the trend. I wouldn't take these forecasts very seriously unless you are a forecaster and have experience forecasting. Oops, not here. We want to get rid of this trend line again, and we want to take a look at the moving average. Now, if you don't know what a moving average is, I suggest you look that up. It's a bit of a more it's a topic that is outside the scope of this course, but a very good thing to know. And see how well it has approximated it. It has pretty much bang on captured all the contours of the actual data and removed all the peaks and the valleys. These sharp edges have been removed, so it's this nice smooth curve that is quite useful. And there are more trend line options as well. You can fit in polynomial trend lines of various orders, and power trend lines, moving averages. We use a period 2 moving average, but you could use a higher order moving average. Again, I suggest you look up moving averages if you're not sure what they are. And over here you have a lot of options on what to do with trend lines, and you can also change the style and colors of the lines themselves. So let's change this line to maybe a dashed line. So this is the dashed line. This is a 5th order moving average, and this is a 2nd order moving average, the dash versus a solid. So trend lines tend to be very useful for this reason. They quickly give you an idea of what the graph looks like if the data that you have is very, very noisy. And again, we have all of the different charting options available still. So another thing to touch upon is adding data to the graph. Now, we created a graph just by selecting the data and hitting the graph button. It was already all done, or almost all done. But you could just start with a completely blank chart and add data as you go. So we can illustrate that here by adding the rest of the countries back onto our plot. So in order to do that, let's go back and select the chart, and in design, under the chart tools in the ribbon, you select data. So now we want to add all the other countries. So all we have to do is hit add here, and the series name would be given by the name of the column, and the series values can be given by the data in that column. So if you do this, that's also added UK right in there. And you can continue on doing this to add all of the different countries. Though doing this is a bit more tedious, because if you take a look at USA, we have all the 1950, 1951, so on and so forth as our labels. But if you go to UK, it's been reset to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So again, in order to get the right things here, we have to hit edit and select the column that we want here, hit OK. So now, not here, let's do that one more time. You don't select the column in this case, or the column name, sorry. You just select the actual data. And now we have the same horizontal axis labels for both USA and UK. And you can continue on adding the other countries by hitting add series again. You select the name of the series. For series values, you can go down, select the values, and voila. And for the years, you need to do the horizontal category label axis labels, I mean. And it's added Sweden down here as well. So, and you can continue doing this in order to add all of the different countries back into the label. And you could do that to add data into a blank chart as well. So now let's go back and take a look at some of the other chart types available. These are the two most commonly used. But another very useful one is a scatter plot, which can be obtained by, let's get rid of this one by deleting it. And now a scatter plot kind of tells you the scattering of points given given a set of points. And that's very useful to know sometimes to know the trends involved. So for Austria, you can see that this is a scatter plot. So what the scatter plot, it just puts the points for where the numbers should be instead of putting bars. And in certain cases, this type of chart can be very useful. And one thing to remember is when experimenting with different chart types to present your data, you don't always have to delete and redo the whole chart. You can just go in and right click and you can select the change chart type function. And it'll give you all the different chart types it has and you can pick whichever one. There's a whole lot of column charts that we're looking at right now. They're three-dimensional ones. Let's take a look if that helps. It looks cool, but I think it makes the data more difficult to discern. But in certain cases, this might turn out to be the best chart to use. And if not, there are tons of other chart types. So let's take a look. There are pie charts, of course. Now, pie chart would be very useful in this type of data set to determine for a particular country what are the different types of proteins they have and how much is obtained from each type. I don't think it'll work very well given that all the different countries together, but let's try. Yeah, it didn't quite work as well. Let's actually undo this and create a brand new pie chart using just Albania and the different types of foods available. So we go here, let's do that. Now here for Albania, we can see a very nice chart where you have all the different types of foods given as slices of the pie. As you can see, the biggest one is the cereals, and you have the different percentages. Again, you can go in and format it differently from the chart layout section. And this comes in very handy. But if you're not very much into pies, another chart type is a donut chart, which is pretty much the same thing without the inner bit of the pie. So it just got rid of the center bit and left the donut around it, which is also nice sometimes to display certain types of data. The key thing to notice is how easy it is to experiment with different chart types. If you don't like one, you can quickly take a look at a few different other ones and see which one works the best for the type of data that you have. Let's try this fancy radar chart. This isn't very meaningful. What it has done is it's created this origin at the center, and the length of these lines represent the values of the numbers. Let me expand this so you can take a look. This might be useful in certain cases, but usually when when working with visualizing data, the simplest way to visualize the data is usually the best way. This is kind of hard to figure out what exactly it's saying in this particular case, but it might be useful in some other case. Let's take a look at some other fancier charts. These are the horizontal bar charts, which are useful at times. So as Albania, you can see that all the different things, they all kind of come out to the same length. It's hard to know what it's saying. A better way to visualize in a horizontal bar chart would be to just have a normal bar chart, like such. And now you have a very clear view of how much each of the how much of each of the different food groups you Albanians consume. Another thing to note is that the change chart type button is available up top over here. which kind of gives you the same exact dialog box. You change the charts. Let's try this one. This one seems pretty fancy. So as you can see, you can take an experiment with different types of charts and try and figure out what the best way to present your data is to your audience. Data visualization is a bit of a black art in which you have to really understand what, guys, in editing, remove that bit about the black art and stuff. Oh, thank you. The charting features in Excel are also set up for working with them with the trial and error methodology and an experimentation philosophy. So take a look and play around with it. You'll find a way to make the chart, visualize the charts in a way that is most suitable for your audience and to get your point across. You can experiment a bit more with this in the exercises this week. All right, thanks a lot.